You are listening to Healing with Haley, episode 33, Everything You Didn't Know About Finance with Connor Watts. Welcome to the podcast where it's all about healing, self-improvement, our brains, and living your dream life. My name is Haley Kirk, and I'm a life coach, mom, and entrepreneur here to show you how to be the hero of your story. Welcome to the podcast, you guys. I have an amazing guest today. His name is Connor Watts. We met at the Summit of Greatness like a month ago. And we just stayed in touch and we were like, we got to connect again. And so here we are. So we are connected and talking about his business, Wealth Builders. So Connor, tell us where your passion like for finance came in, how Wealth Builders came in. I want to know the passion piece.
Okay, that's a great question. That's a great way to get this thing started. So I'll be completely honest with you. My passion is absolutely not with financial services whatsoever.
Oh,
Mhm.
controversy. I love it.
Yes, yeah, and so I'll give you a kind of a backstory, and this will all kind of make sense of like how I even ended up in this space.
Yes.
So for the listeners listening, they might be hearing a bit of a weird accent, and some people are going to be thinking, okay, is this guy from Australia or what's going on right
The
here?
girls are going to be like, ooh, an accent.
So I actually grew up just outside London in England. And my original dream, actually, growing up as a kid, was to be a professional soccer player or a football player, depending on which side of the pond. I
There we
have to
go.
say
There
football.
we
The
go.
first time I say it, I always have to say football because other my friends, if my friends back home listen to this, they always rip me if they hear
They're
me say,
gonna they're gonna give you crap for
yeah, all the time, every time.
it.
So my original dream was to be a professional soccer player. And let me even just back up a little bit before that. Growing up as a kid, Haley, I was a little shit. Hopefully, I can say some words.
Do it. Be colorful.
If we need to bleep some stuff, we'll bleep some stuff. But I wasn't a particularly good kid.
Mhm.
Uh, Hanging around all the wrong type of people, doing all the wrong type of stuff. And that was very much the case until the age of about 15 years old. At 15, my whole world changed because of one teacher. His name's Mr. Ledbetter. I stay in touch with him to this day. And that man changed my life because he just believed in me. And from a very early age, I've always wanted to be that teacher for as many other people as I possibly could be. And I just wasn't going to teach in a classroom. Like I didn't have the capacity to do that. Another thing happened to me around the age of 15. I stumbled across a film called The Secret. You
Yes.
familiar?
Yes, good. Good one.
Yeah. And so this was my first exposure to the whole idea of like the law of attraction and the idea of, you can become what you think about. And so I'm 15 years old, not a good kid up until this point. I'm watching this movie and my whole life changes in that moment. And I start thinking to myself for the first time, I'm like, excuse me, I'm like, okay, well, if this is the case, then, and I become what I think about, then who and what do I want to become? And
Mm,
two things came to mind. One, I wanted to be that teacher. And
mm,
two, I wanted to do something I genuinely had passion and it fulfilled me and it excited me. And the only thing I could think of at the time was actually playing professional soccer, football. And so at 15, I make a decision. I'm going to become a professional soccer player. And I begin doing every single thing within my power to try and become a player. I was training every single day, multiple days a week, different teams. When I was done training physically with the team, I'd go home and train by myself, or I'd go to the gym. When I was done training physically, I'd go home and start learning and reading and studying books and learning about leadership and communication. And that took me down into all kinds of weird realms of spirituality and Eastern philosophy and quantum physics and quantum mechanics and all this sort of stuff. Anything I could do to try and give myself an edge to become a better player. Long story short, I failed at that dream and I did not become a professional player. I played like low level semi-professional. Okay. But what happened was, let's say I started here to play professional, you need to be way out here. And I was like somewhere around here. But this, Haley, this excited me because this was growth right here. And
right.
I learned many lessons just in the experience of failure. But I learned that when you get really clear on what it is you want and you work towards it,
Mm-hmm.
magic can start happening.
Mm,
And,
yes.
and that then ended up being a very natural transition for me into coaching. And I was very fortunate, very blessed, that I had the opportunity to coach for some of the largest soccer teams on the planet. I coached with Chelsea Football Club, Liverpool Football Club, and then that actually led to me getting a job in Southern California with a team called LA Galaxy. I come to Southern California, and very quickly I learned that it was an expensive place to be. And I'm not making a ton of money really as a coach. And so I'm in Southern California, and I was like, and here's what I do. I would drive to the beach because I'd only coach at night. I'm in Southern California. I'm from England. I'm like, great. I'm gonna make the most of the sunshine and be at the beach. And in Southern California, there's a road, PCH, Pacific Coast Highway or Highway 1. It's a road that goes all the way up the ocean. And on this road, it has some of the most beautiful real estate in the whole of the country. And I remember driving up and down this road, looking at these homes, thinking to myself, like, man, how on earth does some people afford to live in these homes? And so this sparked this curiosity for me. I was like, I need to try and figure out money. I need to try and figure out what is it that these people are doing. Like, and one thing that I learned is that these people don't have jobs. Like most of them own businesses and they had investments that are working for them that gave them freedom of time and freedom of money. And so I began pursuing knowledge around money, business, things like this. And I ended up stumbling across an educational platform, which is what I'm a part of now. And as I started learning this for myself, Haley, I was caught in this crossroads because I've always been driven just by helping people and being that teacher. So I was caught in this crossroads. What's going to allow me to help and serve people more? Me teaching them how to play soccer, or me teaching them how to be able to build wealth, teaching them about money and entrepreneurship and success and stuff like this, and ultimately how to have freedom of time and money in their life. And so the rest kind of developed out of that. And as I started learning more, this stuff started going from like just here in my head to like really here in my heart.
Mm,
Because I've seen firsthand, Haley, what happens to a family when a family doesn't learn this stuff.
yeah.
Like my own family struggled with the topic of money. My parents end up getting divorced, and money is a factor in that. When you're in a low income environment, like you don't get to really have true quality family time. You don't get to live a world-class lifestyle, and that takes its toll on a family more than families would imagine. In fact, in America, it's the number one cause of divorce, financial pressure, financial struggles. It's been shown to be one of the biggest causes of stress for people. And stress has been linked to many different types of diseases.
Mhm.
And I saw that manifest in my own mother's life. My mom, unfortunately, she was given a terminal diagnosis. But Haley, if you'd ever met my mom, you would have met the fiercest little Irish lady you'd ever come across. Like, my mom was as tough as nails.
Oh, I
Anyone who knew my
love
mom would
it.
tell you that she was a tough lady. So, what was originally a 4-month diagnosis, it turned into a 4-year battle with terminal cancer. But those 4 years that my mom fought through that battle, it became way more stressful than it ever needed to because no one taught her this stuff. No one taught her the stuff that we teach the families. And so this is the reason why I started developing a passion for this. It wasn't necessarily a passion for financial services. It was a passion for helping people. But I
Mm,
just come to learn that financial services like is not the most exciting of topics, really, but it's such a fundamental and foundational piece of living a happy and a healthy and a wealthy life. Like money, whether we like it or not, especially in the Western world, is such a fundamental part to us being able to live a good life in every aspect. Like if we want to be living a good life with our relationships, with faith or spirituality, whether it be mentally, emotionally, and if we're struggling with money, that's going to take a toll on all the other areas of our life.
yeah.
So that's kind of a long story to answer the question, but that's kind of how I ended up then developing a bit of passion for wanting to be able to teach people in this area.
Oh man, standing ovation. That was such a good story. I was so captivated. I was seeing all these like images of little Connor at 15. I'm like, oh my God, that's such a good story. Yeah, that's so powerful. And I think that what's so interesting, one of my favorite things I've ever been told about money is it's an amplifier. It
Hmm.
amplifies like And a lot of people think, I guess the scriptures say, or whatever, the Bible is like money's the source of all evil. But that's not true, actually. What the
That's
Bible
quotation.
says is the love of
Love money.
money
Yep.
is the root of all evil. And if you think about money as an amplifier or as a tool
Yep.
to get you what you want, which everyone wants more time with loved ones,
Yeah.
more time to work on passions and have
Yep.
fun. Like it's a tool and it's something that is so cool.
Yeah.
But also can be like what you said, a huge stressor if
Yeah.
you don't have that knowledge and the resources.
Yeah. You're
Um,
100% right, Haley. And this is something that I always, because I speak to a lot of people of faith as well, and a lot of people of faith, they have some limiting beliefs when it comes to money, because there are some misquotations from the Bible and other texts. And the way you called it a tool, that's the perfect word for it. The way I describe it is like it's a hammer. I
oh,
could take a hammer and I could hit you across the head with it and kill you with it. Or I could take the hammer and I could build you the most beautiful home. It
yeah.
doesn't make the hammer good nor bad. It depends on the person who's using it and the way that they use it.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. And it's so interesting because I actually want to share with you my financial background.
Mm,
But and then I just lost my train of thought. I did money work. And I'm a life coach, so I do a lot of like thought work behind money, fitness, all relationships. There's all types of aspects of our lives that I've done some deep work on for my own self.
mm,
And one of the interesting things that came up for me was um that rich people are selfish. That was like
mm.
it was like somehow, or that they're evil, that somehow that was a blueprint of
Sure.
how I viewed rich people. Young. Now I love rich people. I'm like, hey, they're so cool. Like they do all these amazing things for the world.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just so interesting, kind of this blueprint we grow up with about money, right? Like common things are like money doesn't grow on trees.
Yep.
Is there a apple tree, or like is there a tree in the back that you see that has money on it? And kind of all these limiting belief systems about
Yep.
money and how deep rooted they can be,
Yeah.
and how much work we need to do regarding those thoughts. And I love how you even said that what you put into your head eventually you came into your heart. Oh,
Yep.
I thought that was so beautiful because it sinks that deep.
It does for sure. Yeah.
So,
And to your point there, Haley, about, the idea of like money doesn't grow on trees. One thing that I've learned is that in our society, we're conditioned with a lot of negative beliefs around money
oh
because it's
yes.
because it's used as a way to control people.
Go deep
You
into
know?
that. Tell me what you mean.
Yeah, so for example, let's just use the belief of money doesn't grow on trees. And when we start looking into beliefs, beliefs is so much of what dictate our own life. Like we don't see the world for what it is. We see the world through the lenses of our own beliefs. And
Yeah,
then
a
we get a
reality.
lot of what we want from life, what we get out of life as a result a lot of time of our beliefs. So like for example, if we believe that money doesn't grow on trees, it sounds like almost like an innocent thing to say, and we hear it pretty often in our society, but there's actually a much more deep-rooted belief behind that, that money is a limited resource. And this is where we get a lot of
Ooh.
scarcity, and it's actually where we get a lot of greed from. Because if I think that money doesn't grow on trees, well, then I'm not going to give abundantly. I'm not going to share openly. I'm actually going to be like, I got to take from Haley and I got to make sure I hoard and keep it all for myself and my family because there's not enough to go around. But
Oh
if
my
my
God.
belief is that money is as abundant as the air that we breathe, well, why would I? I'm not going to try and hoard air. I'm like, no, I can just keep breathing freely. There's plenty for everyone to go around. The same thing for money. My relationship with money is very different. And whether we like it or we don't like it, money is very closely tied to power and influence in our society.
Uh-huh.
This is the reason why we're not taught about money in our schools. Now, this is kind of taking it a bit of a different path, but if you trace the modern education system, and like this is which is what we have in today's day and age, if you trace that back, you're going to go back to like the early 1900s. You're going to find John D. Rockefeller, who came together with a couple of his rich friends, created the General Education Board, and they needed something to get people out of rural America into to work into the Industrial Revolution. They needed good factory workers. And so John D. Rockefeller is literally on record saying, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. This is why our schooling system it reflects that. It's why, like, basically the schooling system is a preparation for you to just get a job. And it was primarily to get a job in a factory. That's why there's like a school bell to signify like the start of like the work day and like the factory whistle, and there's a whistle or a bell at the end of the day. You have to like put your hand up to use the restroom. Can I have permission to use the restroom?
To be a
It's school
human.
doesn't teach you, yeah, right. It's like school doesn't teach you how to think. It teaches you what to think. It's just here's this information, retain the information and regurgitate it to me, and that is then a sign of your intelligence. How well you can retain and regurgitate information. That doesn't signify how intelligent I am. That's not. There are many different ways to measure intelligence. That's just one way. But now we have these standardized testing systems that basically just reward your ability to remember and repeat, not how to critically think, nothing about emotional intelligence, nothing about financial literacy, nothing about like real practical things that we need to be a functioning human being in our society. So yeah, I kind of went on a bit of a tangent, but that's kind of
I
a
love
piece
that.
of it.
I love that. I actually, I've heard this idea before. But you know so much of the history. I love all the details. I think I will rebut, and I'll say this. I think one really cool thing that school has taught, at least me, is to meet deadlines. And
Sure.
like that idea of um in Atomic Habits, he talks about a professor who I can't remember the professor's name, but it was like he did an experiment where he had half the class do quantity of photos, and based off the quantity of photos, you would be graded. And then the other side of the class would be graded on quality of
Hmm.
photo, but they had to submit one photo and
Hmm.
they'd be graded on that quality of photo. And so the half of the class that performed better was the one that did the quantity. And so I think like sometimes one of the qualms with the education system is it's like, oh, it's busy work and da 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 da. But I was like, you know what? Something I really gained from my educational experience was like meeting deadlines. Because
Sure.
you will like it's even as a business person, like as an entrepreneur, like someone in finance, right? There's always deadlines, like taxes,
Yeah.
there's always deadlines that you have to meet. And like sometimes you just gotta like rush and do it and like
Yeah.
B minus work. Like you just
Yeah.
gotta get it done. But I do think it's interesting to consider that part of the history of education is that it's not really set up to create self-thinkers, right?
Hmm.
Or to create
Entrepreneurs.
yes, yes. And I could definitely see that side as well.
Hmm. And not to
Um
say that there isn't a good side from school. There
yeah,
is.
yeah.
There are lots of valuable lessons that can be learned through that experience. The same way that you can draw out lessons from almost any experience
Yeah.
in life. But like, for example, in school, there isn't really a class on meeting deadlines. You kind of learn that just as a consequence of going through the process.
Yes. Yes.
You
And
could have
I
also learned
do
that in a more effective approach also.
yeah, I think that there are a lot more downsides to school than upsides. I think the scale is leaning more towards the negative. Like I think especially for boys. If you think about it, I graduated in social work and in an elementary school class, and we were helping kids with like behavior problems. And I asked my supervisor, I was like, why is it all boys? Like, why
Mm,
is it all boys in this class, in this like school group? And she was like, oh, I don't know. I'm like you never thought to ask yourself that? Like, come on. And
mm,
one of my favorite authors, Jordan Peterson, is he talked about how like boys don't operate well in a school system, that they're graduating less from high school, they're not attending colleges, like the education system isn't helping boys thrive because they just can't sit still and listen to directions like girls can. That's where they thrive. Boys thrive in like doing and being active
sure.
and
Yeah.
working with their hands. And I noticed that with my own son. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think there are a lot of downsides to the public education. But speaking about education, so your Wealth Builders is
Mhm.
all about self-educating. And then once you find your specific product or service that would help you, then you go to that service. Is that kind of what I'm understanding about the business?
Um, s- Somewhat, you're on the right line. So the way I describe it to people is I'm sitting down with a client. It isn't for me to tell them what's best for them.
That's
It's
cool.
about me empowering them with the education so that they can actually determine for themselves what's best for them.
Cool.
See, a lot of the financial industry is very transactional in its nature. Like if
Mm.
you go and if you just understand the nature of the financial services industry, the whole industry is driven by quota. The way I describe it to people is like it's very similar to the car industry. Like imagine, for example, you walk into a Toyota dealership and you're just like trying to learn about what's the best car for you and your family. But you walk into a Toyota dealership and you're like, hey, Toyota person, can you teach me
Toyota
about
person.
cars? Can you teach me about cars? Can you teach me about what car would be best for me and my family? Now, let me ask you a question. Which brand of car do you think they're going to teach you about? And more likely you're going to end up walking out the door with
Toyota,
a
right.
Toyota, right? And
Yeah.
it's not because that Toyota dealer is a bad person or they're like just trying to sell you something. No, it's just because that's their job to sell Toyota.
Yeah, that's what
Now,
they know.
that's just what they know and that's just what they do. Now, if you went away afterwards and you learn about BMW or Mercedes or McLaren or Lamborghini or Ferrari or any of this other stuff, could you ever go back to the Toyota dealer and be mad at the Toyota dealer because they sold you a Toyota?
No, yeah.
No, because that's just their job. You'd have to be more mad at yourself because you didn't understand the nature of the industry. And see, a lot of people don't understand the financial services industry is exactly the same way. Which
Mm,
is why if someone tells me, let's say they have a financial advisor, if they have a financial advisor, they definitely need our help for sure.
mhm.
By the way, if they have a financial advisor and they tell me who their financial advisor works for, typically I can tell them what they have already because they understand
Oh.
the nature of the industry and how it's all driven by quota.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, a lot of the industry isn't really for the best of the people, it's for the best of the company and the industry themselves. It's more a
Interesting.
for-profit industry than really what's for the best for the client
Mm.
because they can only offer like what they have. They can't always offer a full spectrum of what's available. But imagine that you could walk into a company, let's just say, and they didn't have any of their own cars. But their whole job was they just taught you about the fundamental basics of cars and gave you an education so you can actually figure out what's the best car for you. And then within that platform, they had all of the car companies. And then it was more just a case of matchmaking.
Oh,
That's
you're like the
essentially really,
Bumble of the finance industry.
yeah, you could describe it like that. We're matchmakers in a lot of ways. Like I'll give you a quick example. So when it comes to money, there are really only three basic rules of money that we need to understand and apply. I think of it like three lenses that you can look at money through. So that when you actually then look at some kind of financial tool or product or service, all you need to do is look at it through the lens and you can start to figure out, okay, is this really good or not?
Mm.
Here's the first one. So it's the compounding effect. Have you ever heard of something called the Rule of 72 before?
Oh, like Jesus when he was like, oh, that's 77. No.
Yeah, this one isn't
Remember when
Jesus.
Jesus was like, forgive them 77 times 7? No, it's 77, not 72.
I
Okay,
don't
tell
know
me
that
the rule.
one. This one isn't Jesus. This is Albert Einstein.
Oh, cool.
So Albert Einstein called this the eighth wonder of the world. Okay. Now, just as a precursor to this, this is something that everybody should be taught in school. Everybody should have a basic understanding of this. And one thing I've learned in my years of teaching this to people, almost no one knows what I'm about to explain to you. And I've sat down with people that work in the financial service industry. I've sat down with very highly educated people. I've sat down with very wealthy people. No one understands this, which is shocking to me, really. But here's how this works. You take the number 72 and you divide it by the rate of return that you're receiving, the interest rate that you're receiving. And that will equal the number of years it takes for your money to double for you. So, for example, let's just say I give you $10,000 and you take that money, Haley, and you leave it somewhere that gives you only a 1% return. You do 72 divided by 1, and that equals
72.
72. So that means it would take 72 years for the 10 to become 20.
Jesus.
Yeah, not particularly exciting, right?
No.
But what if you could, let's just say, for example, you could get a 10% return, just for easy math. 72 divided by 10 equals
7.2.
7.2. So now your money
God.
doubles every 7.2 years.
Uh-huh.
But now,
Okay.
but
That's
now
like
here's the
way
thing.
less.
Yeah, way less. So that then when it compounds, in fact, let me even just I can show you because I have like an image here that I show people.
Oh, fun.
Usually walk people through some educational pieces. Let me show you this here. I'll share if I'm able to share my screen.
Oh, let me make you a host.
There
Make
we go.
a host.
Okay, perfect. Here we go. So here I'll walk you through this just so you kind of see some of the numbers with this. So there was 72 at 1%, doubles every 72 years. At 4%, it doubles every 18 years. So the same 10 doubles the 20, then the 40. An 8% return, it doubles every 9 years. So 10 doubles the 20, 40, 80, 160 in that same period of time. But if they can get a 12% return, it now doubles every 6 years. So the difference between $10,000 getting a 4% return versus 12% is $600,000.
Oh,
So the question then is like, all right, Haley, well, what would you rather have it within 36 years? Would you rather have 40 or 640?
yeah. Definitely
Obviously the bigger
640.
amount, right? But
Yeah.
now here's the thing. Haley, would you agree that a lot of people, they just leave their money in a bank?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know what the average retail bank pays us in interest?
Ugh, like pennies, like point oh one
Yeah,
or
it's
point oh two.
0.01.
Yeah.
So if you did the math, it means the money would double every 7,200 years. So we're having to go
7,000 years.
BC. Yeah. Jesus Christ himself invests to put his money into the bank. He's still waiting a couple more thousand years until it doubles, you know? But this is
That
the
is
crazy thing about
hilarious.
this, Haley, because this is what so many people are doing with their money.
Yeah, yeah.
This right here is why a big part of the reason why the banks don't want us to be educated about money. Because when we're uneducated, we give our money to the banks. They in turn give us 0.01, and we don't even question it because we don't understand the rule of 72. But then they're taking our money and they're investing our money for themselves in the places where they get 8 to 12. Or
Ugh.
even better, they take that same money, they lend it to your friends and family in the form of a credit card and will
Mm.
charge them 20 to 30% in interest. So could you see
Oh,
why they wouldn't want us to learn this?
yeah. That's so sad. This makes
Right?
me cry.
Yeah. But this is the reason why I love what we do so much, because we've actually figured out a way to be able to make this education, everything I'm showing you right here, we figured out a way to have actually the big financial companies pay us. That allows me to then sit down with a family Doesn't matter whether they have $1 to their name, $100, or $1 million to their name. And I get the opportunity to sit down with them, spend the time with them, and make sure that they understand this stuff for themselves, to be able to empower them and their family to get on the right path and to start putting themselves in the right type of financial position.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that so much. So, what do you think? Oh, actually, hold on. There were three rules. Number one is the rule of 72. What's the second one?
Uh, Here, let me show you. I'll walk you through some of the
Oh,
education
yay.
here so you guys can see this. It will be quick. So the second rule is the risk effect. Okay. When it comes to risk, we have a couple choices. We could put our money into a fixed account, which is like a savings account, a CD, or a bond. Okay. The good thing about it is it gives us safety, but there's no growth, as you
Right.
can see. When people see how low the growth is, usually they most of the time look to what's called a variable account, which is like the market, stock market, crypto market, things like this. Now, when we put our money in the market and it goes up, the money grows. But then when the market starts coming down, now we start losing the value. So it gives us the potential for growth, but no safety here. But Haley, what if it were possible to get the best of both worlds, where we could have both safety and growth? If that were possible, do you think people would at least want to be aware of it?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of an indexing strategy before?
I have. Like SPX?
So not an index fund. That's usually a common people because there's an index fund which sounds very similar, but an indexing strategy is something different.
Okay, okay.
So in an indexing strategy, what happens is when the market goes up, your money grows with the market, but only up to a certain percentage.
Mm.
But then whenever the market starts coming down, your money doesn't go down.
Oh, that's nice. What the
So
heck?
you, yeah, so you lock in the gains. As the market starts coming down, you stay put. As the market grows, you grow. When the market comes down, you stay put. So it then gives you the best of both worlds, where you have safety and growth. Does that make sense?
Whoa. Yes. So I don't know if I told you this, but I was in the finance industry for like 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know
So
that.
I know a lot. So what is the index strategy?
What is it? Okay, it's a great
Yeah.
question. So you have to understand the nature of the companies that can offer these different strategies. So typically, this is offered by a bank. It's a fixed
Mm-hmm.
account. Typically, it's only investment companies that offer variable. Okay, like and this is how then you can start detecting some of their quotas. It's all based on variable accounts. They'll put your money in the stocks and bonds, and maybe have an IRA or a Roth IRA or a 529 plan or whatever it could be. But the only type of companies that can offer an indexing strategy is an insurance company.
I thought so. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so this then opens up a whole weird world because when people think of like insurance, people have a lot of misconceptions around these topics.
Yeah.
But then that's where like the power of the education, because when you look into it, when you look at what the banks themselves are doing with their money, 40 to 50% of their own tier one assets are being put into these insurance type products. And it's all public information. Like
That's
since 2008, the banks have been forced to publicize their financials. So it's there, it's right there, it's just hiding in plain sight. Most people just don't go and look at the financial statements of the big banks.
true. True. That is so interesting. So what is that insurance products? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, okay, great question. So when it comes to the world, and this is life insurance that we're talking about.
Okay.
So when it comes to life insurance, and again, it's a weird topic because if you speak to two people about life insurance,
Hmm.
one person's like, it's the best thing ever. The very next guy is like, it's a total scam.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is because saying the word life insurance is like me talking to you about fruit. Imagine we're having a conversation about fruit.
Hmm.
I'm over here talking to you about oranges, but the whole time you think I'm talking to you about bananas. Well, we're talking about fruit, but we're talking about two completely different things altogether.
Okay.
Okay. It's the same thing when it comes to the world of life insurance. Okay, there are many different types, and I would be the first one to tell anyone here listening that most life insurance is not very good at all.
Oh.
However, there are very specific types of life insurance which can be, if someone's educated and they know how to use it in the correct manner, can be some of the most powerful financial vehicles that exist in the marketplace today. So just to give you a brief synopsis, and you probably already know this if you've been in the financial world, but like maybe for some of the viewers. So when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
life insurance, there's two sides to it really. There's temporary, it's called term insurance, and then there's permanent life insurance. So the way I describe the difference between these two is term is like renting. You're renting insurance, so you're going to pay into it, and at the end, there's not like any equity built. So you have it for a certain period of time, and then it goes away. Typically, if someone's using traditional term life insurance with no living benefits, less than 1% of it ever pays out because people typically will pass away after the term. Now, on the permanent side, there is many different types of permanent life insurance. The oldest form is something called a whole life policy. Now, a whole life policy is great if you want to guarantee a death benefit, but the problem with whole life insurance is it's one of the most expensive forms of insurance that exist. Because they offer so many guarantees, the cost goes up with every guarantee. Whole life evolved into something called a universal life. A universal life, universal just means flexible premium. So now you can have a flexible premium, it's not a fixed premium.
And
And it can
premium's
be
the amount you pay, like per month
premium.
or per year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a whole life policy essentially is a fixed premium or a fixed payment. They're going to guarantee you a death benefit. They're going to guarantee you cash value. Going to guarantee many different things. So it's good if you want like a total guarantee, but it doesn't afford a lot of flexibility within it, and it typically doesn't give you good growth because it's based on company dividends, and typically that's somewhere between 3 and 5%. So it ends up paying out more like a fixed account, like I showed you just there. Then there was an evolution to something called a universal life. Hopefully, I'm not boring you with this.
I love this. This
Viewers
is one of my favorite
with
topics.
this. Okay. So it is for exciting for some, and for others, like people are tuning out. So, so then there was an evolution to something called a universal life, which works kind of similar to a whole life. One of the biggest distinctions is it gives you flexible premium. And then there was an evolution from universal life to something called a variable universal life, which, like the variable, it goes all the way up with the market and all the way down with the market. So now you can get market-like returns. And then the most recent evolution in the permanent life insurance space is it was into something called an indexed universal life.
This I've never heard of, so keep
Really?
going. This is so interesting.
So an indexed universal life policy, so it's in the form of a life insurance, so it comes with the benefits of life insurance. But then it gives you, like I was showing you, these indexing type strategies. So it has flexible premium, so you can put there's like a minimum and a maximum. You can contribute anywhere between the two. And the market grows up to a certain percentage. If you have a good one, it's usually capped at somewhere around like 13% typically. But then whenever the market comes down, you have a floor that protects you, where you're guaranteed to never lose when the market comes down. So then it can give you these market type returns. Now, if I just show you an example of this here really quick, just so you see this, because sometimes people are like, well, I want all of the gains. I'm like, great, you can do that, but you have to have all of the loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when you look at it just mathematically, okay, what would be better? It'd be better to have all of the gains and all of the loss, or capped gains and and no losses. Now, before I show you this, let me show you just a little precursor to this to help you to kind of set this up a little bit. Let me pull this up right here.
I'm holding back so much, just like mimicking your accent. It's so fun.
Yeah, that's funny. You can do that. That's fine.
I
I see
love
it
it.
more Larry. I get it a lot. So when I come back to here, now just a little precursor here. So I'm sure you've heard of Warren Buffett, right?
Oh yeah.
So Warren Buffett, considered one of the greatest investors of all time, he has two rules of investing. Rule number one is don't lose money. And rule number two is don't
Don't
forget.
forget number one.
There you go, right? Now, in these indexing strategies, you're guaranteed to never lose.
That's so great. Oh, that's so cool.
Now, here's the reason why this is so important. And this is especially important if you have a financial advisor. Because so it's because of the difference between an average rate of return and an actual rate of return.
Ooh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh,
typically financial people only ever speak in the language of average rates of return.
right.
They
Yeah.
don't ever really talk in the terms of actual rates of return, and it can be a very misleading number. Let me explain what I mean. So let's just say you start with an account that has $100 in it, and the market comes down 50%, let's just say. I'm writing with my finger, so excuse the terrible handwriting. So you had $100, you lose 50%. How much money have you got?
50.
Correct. So now you got $50.
Hey, that's a pretty good five.
That's not bad, huh?
That's good.
I've had a lot of practice with my finger, so there you go. So now you got $50,
This is like pro
and the market
fives.
and the market comes up 50%. How much money have you got now?
Okay. 50% of 50 is 25, so you have $75.
Correct.
I get so scared with math.
I'm not much of a math person either.
Oh
I'm a
my God.
student in math, by the way, and I'm dyslexic, so I've come a long way.
No way.
Yeah. So now when you look, if you want to calculate the average return, the way you calculate averages is you take the numbers here. So plus 50 minus 50, calculate averages by adding them and then dividing by how many times. So my average return would be 0%.
Ooh,
But
yeah.
the actual rate of return, you start with 100, you have to look at where you finished. It's negative 25% is the actual rate of return. Now, let's say you had a
Ooh,
financial advisor here.
sneaky.
Yeah, let's say you had a financial advisor. They might come to you and say, "Hey, Haley, we've got some bad news, we've got some good news."
Yeah.
Bad news is the market went down 50%. Oh, sorry, that I highlighted the wrong thing. The bad news is the market went down 50%. But the good news, it came back up 50%. So don't worry, Haley, your average rate of return is 0%.
Oh,
And you might assume after hearing, okay, 0% average, okay, at least I didn't lose anything.
right.
But if you knew the right questions to ask, you'd say, I don't care about the average. Can you tell me the actual rate of return? And you'd see you lost 25% of all your money. You start with 100, you finish at
Mm-mm.
75. And so, Haley, when you're at $50 here, what percentage would you have to gain just to get back to where you started?
50%.
You'd have to have 100%.
Oh no.
Yeah. You'd have to have 100% return just to get back to $100, right?
Oh.
You'd have to double the 50.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay.
So this is why not losing money is oftentimes more important than gaining money
Yeah.
because of the impact of losses on an investment. And this is why Warren Buffett has those two rules. So now if I show you something else here, there's just a little precursor to what I was showing you. So this is an example of like an S&P 500 index, like you mentioned SPY or SPX. Okay, so these are the real numbers of the S&P 500 from 1998 all the way to 2021. On the left-hand side is just a variable S&P, up and down, all the gains, all the loss. On the right-hand side is capped gains and capped losses, an indexing strategy. So if you
The
see,
wait, the right category is like the insurance product you're talking about.
essentially, yes, it's an
Okay.
indexing strategy. Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, if the market, so in 98, 99, the market goes up 26 and 19%. So if you're variable, you get all of the gain from 100 to 151. But if you're capped at 12%, you only grow to 12%. So you only grow to 125,000. But then watch what happens the next 3 years. -12, -10, -23. People drop from 151 down to $90,000 right here.
Oh,
But
wow.
here, because you're guaranteed to never lose and you have a floor of 0.75%, you actually grow a little bit.
Huh. What? That's
Yeah.
nuts.
Right? Now, fast forward to 2008. Maybe you remember what happened in '08, Haley.
Yeah, the housing
Big,
thing, the Fannie Mae.
yeah, big financial crisis. The market
Yeah.
crashes almost 40% in 1 year. Look at this. People drop from 151 down to $93,000 here.
Jesus.
Could you imagine that, Haley? Like, imagine if you were hoping to retire that year or the next
Oh
year.
my God. Yeah,
You
that would
lose
be devastating.
40% of your nest egg.
Yeah.
Imagine the stress, the worry, the sleepless nights that come as a result. But this is why I call this just peace of mind. While everyone else is
Yeah.
losing sleep and are stressed out, here you sleep easy. You're
That's
guaranteed to never
that's
lose.
nuts. See, one of my favorite investors, Ray Dalio. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, yeah.
So he's like a hedge fund. He's
Mhm.
made billions of dollars for people. And he says you have to make your money work in all seasons, in
Yeah,
inflation times, in high interest times. Like you want to make sure that whatever investment you have, you're making money no matter what.
yeah.
That is amazing.
It's huge.
That's so cool. So how does that work? So is it, I don't even know how it works. So this example you're saying with the 10,000, so you start like a life insurance policy
Yeah.
with 10,000 as like the premium
No, it could be any amount. You could start you can design it to fit any need. You could start it with $100 a month. You could start it with $1 million a month. It could be fit for any family to complete different purposes. But here's kind of how they do it. Here's kind of the technical side of it. I wasn't, I'm spilling all the secrets here tonight. I love
Yes.
it. So
Dive deep.
yeah, so here we go. So here's how it works. So let's say you give $100 to the insurance company inside this
Index strategy.
insurance. Yeah, like we call it a LIRP. It's like a life insurance retirement plan or an IUL, an index
We're
reverse.
lerping.
So let's say you give them $100. It could be any dollar amount. What they do is so the money's not your money isn't sitting in the market. What they're doing is they're just tracking a market index. And it could be typically it's an annual point-to-point review, look back. So let's say you deposit January 1st into the account. 1 year later, they look back. What was the growth of the index? They credit your account based on that
Based off the performance of the index from
over
that
12
year
months.
or that
Yes.
time frame.
From
Oh,
12
wow.
months to 12 months. If you deposit the first of each month, 12 months later, they credit you based on the growth of the index. And so here's what they do. So let's just say you give them $100. And I'm making these numbers up, but
Yeah.
just to get the idea. You give them $100, they take $90 and they put it into some kind of high yield bond. And because these companies are multi-billion dollar companies, they're able to access bonds that the average consumer cannot access. They give them
That's
far greater
true.
rates of return.
Oh, that's
So let's just say with the $90, they know after 1 year that 90 is going to grow back to 100. Again, I'm making up the numbers, but just get the
yeah.
idea. The 90, they know it's going to grow back to 100 regardless of what happens. Okay, now with the remaining, let's just say $10, they actually purchase options. And so
Ooh,
then if the market goes up, the options give them much higher returns. So they can give you these market-like returns up to a certain percentage. But if the market goes negative in that year, okay, well, you lose the options, but the bond grows back to the original deposit amount. So that's how they guarantee you don't lose.
that's nuts. Well, they could even do options for the market going down.
Yeah, they could.
Oh, that's nuts. That's so cool. I
hmm
love it. It's
Yeah.
like the best of both.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Wow. So it's It's permanent life insurance. Oh, this is so cool. Sorry, I'm wrapping my head around this thing. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
So I'll show you something here because most people don't understand this. I'll show you something here. Like most people don't, when I say to them, hey, listen, would you believe me if I told you the banks are putting the majority of their own money into accounts like this? Most people are like, no, I wouldn't really believe you. I'm like, okay, well, seeing is believing. So let me show you. So you
Ooh,
have to take my word for it. So
Wells Fargo.
this is an annual report of a small little bank that not many people have ever heard of. So
Wells
this is
Fargo, what a
yeah,
small time bank.
tiny bank, right?
They're
So
just
look, this
small time.
shows us, if we come in here, this shows us their premises, equipment, and other
In
assets.
millions.
Yeah, in millions, right? So we have land and buildings. So these are their real estate holdings right here. It's about $11 billion.
Okay, and this was in 2019. Oh, this
This
is
is
so cool.
2019. Yeah. So if you add up these things, furniture and equipment, leasehold improvements, finance assets, you add up all these things, that's $21 billion right there. But if
Oh,
we scroll
wow.
along, other assets in millions, corporate/bank owned life insurance. This alone is $20 billion. It's almost the same amount of money that they're putting into all of these other things combined. And at first, it doesn't even make any sense. Like how does a bank even get life insurance? They don't even have a life.
Because they're considered an entity, like a person, right?
No. So the way that they do it, there's something called BOLI, bank-owned life insurance, or COLI, corporate-owned life insurance. So the way they do it, I don't know if you know anyone who works in a bank or you've had an experience in banking, but the banks will give out the title vice president to employees like it's going out of fashion. And the reason for this is because if you're an executive, you're a vice president, you're considered an executive. And a bank or a corporation can own a life insurance policy on what's considered a key employee, i.e., an executive. So the bank themselves can insure the executive. The executive is the one whose life is insured, but the bank is the owner, is the payer, and the beneficiary. So the banks can put their money inside these accounts, grow it,
Yeah.
and if something happens to the executive, guess who also gets paid the benefit?
The pay.
The bank gets paid the benefit, the death benefit, if
Yeah.
the executive passes away.
That's so cool.
And so at first it doesn't make any sense, but when you start going a bit deeper into this and you learn, wait, so the banks can put their money in here, and here's kind of a quick snapshot of this. They can grow the money completely tax-free, where they're guaranteed to never lose. It's an indexing strategy. They don't pay any penalties that access the money. So if they wanted to draw the money from here and make other investments from it, they could do that without any penalty of withdrawal. They're not paying any fees to a financial advisor. And it can grow on average, let's say between 8 and 10% with an S&P 500 index. Well, when you put all those things together, it's almost a no-brainer, really.
Wow.
And then when you start looking into this, it's not just Wells Fargo, Haley. This is literally every single bank in America, every major bank in America for the
Life
most part.
insurance assets. Oh my goodness. So this says banks ranked by life insurance assets.
Hmm.
Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, PNC Bank, Truist, US Bank, Citibank, Key
Goes
Bank,
on. This goes
Citizens
on
Bank. Oh,
and
the list is
on
like
and on.
hundreds,
Thousands.
600, 1,000. Oh,
They're all doing the same thing.
and it's like millions and
Yeah,
millions
millions,
of
tens of
dollars.
millions, hundreds of millions,
And that's
billions of
annually
dollars. This is their total assets. So they hold in these total life insurance assets held in these accounts.
in 2024.
This is the yeah, these are the most recent this is the most recent update. This is from updated
That's
2024. And you
insane.
can go back historically and look at all the numbers here. So
Wow.
if we know that when we give our money to a bank, the bank is taking our money and putting our money into life insurance assets, then why would I give the money to the bank? Why wouldn't I skip the bank from the equation altogether, take my own money, put my money into these accounts so that my money and so my family and myself, we get to be able to be the ones building wealth.
I know what one rebuttal. So what about something like an emergency fund? Like how liquid, because
Good
life
point.
insurance plans don't seem very liquid. So what
Yeah.
would you say to that?
Yeah, you should have basically there's when we're designing some plans for someone, there should be basically like three different buckets that we create. There's a short-term bucket, which is for exactly that. It's emergencies, things of this nature, because every month there's always just something that happens, right? We can't plan and prepare for these things. So we want to make sure we have, we're not saying, I'm not saying, hey, put all your money into these life insurance assets. Not at all. That wouldn't be a wise idea. You should have money for liquid access, for emergencies, all this stuff. There should be a second bucket, what we call like a midterm bucket, which is for some of the bigger purchases that you may want to make, of being in the next kind of like 2 to 5 years sort of range. And then there's a long-term bucket, which is more for like long-term wealth creation, your financial freedom, your financial independence. And that's where these types of accounts would then come into play, more in your long-term wealth creation bucket.
Cool. Oh my goodness. I'm learning
And
so much from you. I'm already like I was in the industry for like yeah, like 5, 6 years and this is
really,
cool. Yeah.
what were you doing in the industry?
So I was like a pre-financial advisor and
Mm,
then COVID hit and that was crazy. And then
mm.
I was um I guess you could say like when you call in to one of the big I don't want to say the big names that I worked for. I'm like scared they'll come haunt me or something.
Yeah. Oh,
But
did
like I worked for two
it?
big finance companies.
Okay,
Um and one of them you would like call in and get questions about like options,
sure.
all the stuff. So I would help people. I was like a trade assistant. So I would help people with their trades.
Can I ask you a question?
Trader?
It,
Trade broker? I
and so
can't
is
remember.
it like a pretty well-known like bank or financial institution?
Oh yeah, top big,
Big.
the big
Okay.
ones.
Okay. I'm just curious, like if I called you and I'm just an average Joe Schmo, I have just maybe a couple $1,000s,
Yeah.
would you have been able to help me? Or did the company have a minimum?
No, I don't remember there being like I don't remember them. I remember one of them having like a promo for a financial advisor. So they would push to say like, hey, here's money here in your account. What are you doing with this money? Are you interested in a conversation with a financial advisor?
And this was with a
So
bank, right?
maybe this is a hybrid. It's like a big name. So it's
Okay.
like bank and um what's the term?
A bank
Assets?
and an investment company. So
Investment company. Thank you so
are
much.
they on the top three of this list?
Yes.
Okay. Did it rhyme with
No,
Merrill
stop it. You're
Merrill
you're
Lynch?
terrible. You're terrible. You're
Okay.
terrible.
So because you just said yes to that question, I already kind of know the answer to that question.
Yeah, because I
And
wasn't one of the financial advisors, so I
yeah,
didn't know what they were pushing.
yeah. So this is one of the trademarks of the industry. Typically, it's they have minimums. There's a
Mm.
minimum asset requirement for you to be able to sit down with an advisor.
That's
It,
true. Okay, yes. Now I know what you're saying with minimums.
yeah.
Yes. It was
So
like 50,000. Yeah.
yeah, and that's low. 50,000 is
Yeah.
low.
I know.
You a lot of like if you have like who was considered a good financial advisor, it's like $500,000 to $1 million typically of assets liquid ready for. So then it basically then becomes majority of America then becomes excluded because
Oh,
the average
wow.
American doesn't have $50,000 of liquid
Right.
assets, let alone do they
Oh,
have
that's
a
so
hundred
interesting.
thousand or a quarter of a million or 500,000.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And I already know if they were on the top three of that list, their quota would be based on something called assets under management.
Yes, yes. That was a
And-
term they would talk about every day.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so the way that assets under management works is that maybe you already know this, I'm sure, but for your viewers, is typically they'll charge you a 1% fee for the total assets under management.
Yes. Yes.
Now, funnily, and that, just so you know, is the most lucrative thing for the financial institution themselves. Because that 1% fee can compound, it compounds, and it adds up to be a lot of money on the back end. Let me show you something here, just so you see this. If I come into here, we're going like all into the financial space of
This is
this.
so fun. I love this.
So if I pull this up right here and I just go to manage fund fees calculator, and let's just say, I'm standard person, you said let's say 50,000 is my minimum, let's just say. Let's say I'm investing over my lifetime of 30 years, and let's just say I'm adding to it, let's say $1,000 a month, 12,000 a year, let's just say. Let's say 1,000 monthly. And let's just say I'm only able to average, let's just say 8%, let's just say. Okay. And my advisor is only charging me a 1% fee. Okay, if we look at this, okay, at the end of it, you have 1.5 million. So you might look at that and be like, man, I did pretty good. My advisor's great. The advisor got paid 383,000.
Oh my God. Yeah,
You paid
that's nuts.
$383,000 to have an advisor. The financial world is the only place you could pay 383,000 and not even know that you paid it.
No.
And when you actually go a little bit deeper than this, did you ever hear of Warren Buffett's $1 million bet?
Oh yeah, that his picks would beat the market or something. Oh no, the market would beat
Any
uh
of them? Yeah.
yeah, the
The bet was that the S&P 500 index would be all of the money managers, all the hedge fund managers. So this is in 2008. He makes the bet. 10 years later, he wins the bet. See all
that's
these
so
different
dope.
articles being wrote. After he wins, he goes back to them. He's like, listen, you guys know my strategy. I'm just going to put my money into an S&P 500 index. I bet you can't beat me. None of them take him up on the bet. Because over 10 years, they know that they're not going to beat the S&P index. When you look at it, 96% of all financial advisors do not match the growth of the S&P 500. So you just paid 383,000 96% of the time to do worse than just putting your money straight into an S&P 500 index that you didn't have to pay this fee for.
Wow. So okay, here's my like I'm the customer question.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I just put like do what Warren Buffett did and put my money in the S&P rather than the the
You should do
strategy you're talking about for the life
you
insurance?
should do that. But
Oh,
the life insurance invests into an S&P 500 index. Because now
oh, it
let me show
is
you.
doing what Warren Buffett did,
Yeah,
but
let me show you.
without the downside of the S&P going down.
Yeah, so now let me show you the third rule. We never really got to it.
Oh, yay, I'm so glad you went there.
It's the tax effect. There are three ways we pay taxes on our money. Tax now, tax deferred, tax exempt. Which
Yay,
one which one sounds best to you?
exempt.
Exempt. So tax now is like a checking, savings, CD, stocks and bonds, mutual funds. Deferred is like a 401k, IRA, pension, TSB. Tax exempt, there's really two main choices. There's a Roth IRA. I'm sure you've maybe heard of that one before. It's a lot more commonly known. And then
Mm,
there's the LURP, which is what we've kind of been talking about, life
that's
insurance
so
retirement plan.
cool.
Tax now, you pay taxes as you go. So don't get me wrong, you can make money here, but the challenge is whenever you make money here, it's like you take two steps forward, one step backwards.
Yeah.
In a deferred account, you don't pay any taxes now, you pay them all later. Think of it like this, Haley. Let's just say
So
that
dumb. So dumb.
right, let's say you needed a loan, okay? Call it 100 grand. And let's just say I was willing to loan you money. Before you accept any loan from me, what should be the first question you ask me?
I feel like it's gonna be a tax question.
It's not taxes, because
Okay.
loans are tax-free. It's debt. But I'm drawing a comparison. It's an analogy.
What's my first question if you're gonna loan me 100K?
Hmm.
How much do you want for loaning me?
Yeah, what's the
Okay.
interest rate, right?
Hmm.
And what if I said to you, oh, don't worry about it. Hey, take the money, have a good time, you go and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Later on, I'm going to tell you how much you owe me. Would you
Oh,
take that?
that's scary. Yeah, that's a scary proposition.
Yeah, right. The scary thing is, this is the deal that anyone putting their money in the 401k or any kind of deferred account is taking,
Yeah,
or the IRS, because we have no idea what the taxes are going to be in the future.
right.
And
Yeah.
Haley, do you think taxes are going up or coming down in the future?
They're gonna go so up. It's like signing a deal with the devil or like
Yeah,
Rumpelstiltskin.
yeah. Which then this leads you to tax exempt. You pay tax now in the beginning, but you don't pay any tax of the gains of the money later.
Genius.
Like you're a
Genius.
farmer, you pay tax on your seed in the beginning. That seed then grows and grows and grows and grows. You enjoy a tax-free harvest.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you can put the S&P 500 into any of these tax categories. You could go in a basically through stocks, like that's just a traditional S&P 500 index. You can invest into an S&P index through a 401k or an IRA. You could also do it for a Roth IRA or a LUP. All these things are just tax code. It's like the vehicle of it's like the holding vehicle. So think of it like a car, right? There's the shell of a car. So like I'll give you an example, like Maserati and Ferrari, they have the same engine. They have a different exterior, a different body. So if you ask, well, what drives faster, a Maserati or Ferrari? Same thing, has the same engine. So like the S&P 500 is the engine that you can put in these different shells, the different vehicles. All those things I just showed you is just tax code. So a
mm,
Roth IRA or a traditional IRA or a LURP account is tax code.
yeah.
Okay, it's what's within
Oh,
it that then gives you the performance.
this is so cool. I'm like mind blown. This is so awesome. This is so cool. So to wrap up, because holy smokes, we've been talking for like
Yeah,
over
I know.
an hour. This is so cool though. Oh my God. So to wrap up, what I love sound bites. I love sound bites. I think they're fun. What are like if I know absolutely nothing about money, budgeting, debt, all the things you're talking about, I'm like, whoa, this went way over my head. What are some like simple tips on money or money mindset that you could give the listeners?
Mm, okay. In terms of money mindset, and probably one of the most important rules when it comes to building wealth, there's something called the pay yourself first rule. Okay, which if you've ever read a book called The Richest Man in Babylon,
I knew you were gonna say it. That's such a good
yeah,
book.
yeah, it's such a good book. That it's all about this. And it's just the idea, take the first 10% of everything you earn and pay yourself with it. I use this kind of story analogy with people. Like imagine that there's a line of people lining outside your house right now. This is all your bills. We have to understand whoever we pay a bill to becomes wealthy. If you're paying a bill to Netflix, Netflix becomes wealthy. You're paying a bill to your mortgage company, your company is becoming wealthy. But are you paying a bill to yourself? So line up all these people lining outside your house. They're asking you for a bill. Give me, give me, give me, give me your money. Now we all have a choice of where we put ourselves in this line. We can choose to put ourselves and our family at the very front of the line and pay ourselves first, and then prioritize all the everybody else. Or we can choose, and that's a choice, to give all of our money away to everybody else. And if there's anything left over at the end of the day, maybe we give some of it to ourselves and our family.
Yeah. Oh, I need to read that book again because that's seriously it's the seven rules for the to cure the lean purse, right? The seven rules to cure the lean purse. And that first one is pay yourself, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
Now I need to read the book. Now I need to reread it because I can't
And
remember
that's
now.
the first rule is pay yourself.
Hmm. So, see, when it comes to money, because a lot of time it does seem like a big, scary, complicated topic for a lot of people. Have you ever seen The Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
So, money is a lot like The Wizard of Oz. You know how everyone's scared of the big bad wizard, but then they go to the castle and they find the wizard, and then what happens? They draw back the curtain and they find this little like dweeb of a person, man, or a little wizard, and they're like, "Why are we scared of this thing the whole time? It was all an illusion."
Yeah, yeah.
Money's the same way. The financial industry has created this big, bad, scary wizard that instills so much fear into people. But if you actually just peer behind the curtain a little bit and you start to learn some of these basic rules of money, you're like, wait, this isn't actually that scary at all. And you start to
Yeah.
become calmed.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so money mindset, pay yourself. What else?
Um, so I'll give you a summary of kind of the educational pieces right here. So in summary, the first thing we need to do is know something called what our FIN number is. Okay, a FIN number is just a financial independence number. It's the exact amount of money that someone needs to be completely financially independent, meaning they never have to worry about money again. In order to achieve the FIN number, we just need to understand these three rules. We need to know how to not lose money when the market comes down, the risk effect. We need to understand the compounding effect, how to be able to get a good return on our money. And we need to understand the tax effect, how to be able to do this within a tax exempt environment. This, Haley, is the formula.
That's so
Right.
cool. Yeah. I love it. What in like your own personal financial journey outside of Wealth Builders, like what have you learned? What has been the biggest lesson for you financially? And yeah, let's start there.
The biggest lesson I've learned outside of wealth builders, I'll be honest, I
Yeah.
was completely illiterate about money. Every single thing that I've ever learned about money came from here. But before I found this, I knew nothing about money at all. Nothing. I'm a soccer coach. I'm dyslexic. I'm a C student in math. I come from a very humble beginning. I didn't know a single thing about money, not one. Everything that I've learned is a result of this. So actually, as much as I would love to be able to give you a lesson I've learned outside of that, I haven't learned anything outside of this. I mean,
Wow.
something that I've maybe just learned in my own experience of going through this journey. Um, even though I've taught this, I've had to deal with my own habit when it comes to money, I guess, and like just
Yes.
forming my own habit with money.
Yes.
Because of business, I've been very fortunate and very blessed that we've done very well in terms of cash flow. We've gone from turning what was an annual income into a monthly income. But as income went like this, our expenses, even though this is some of the stuff I'm being very transparent, even though this is some of the things we taught, some of our expenses went up. And that went on for a little while. And I had to learn the hard way on some of that. And, we ended up accumulating a bit of debt. And I was like, okay, well, this needs to stop.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to cut right back on our expenses and prioritize net worth because cash flow is like the king.
Yes. Mm.
The
Purple
king,
Bible.
hmm,
Purple Bible. Robert Kiyosaki.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, is that?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
author of Rich Dad Poor Dad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure what Purple Bible is though.
That's the one. Rich Dad Poor Dad is the purple
Oh,
Bible
okay.
because
Oh,
it's like
fair,
a
fair.
purple
Okay,
cover.
that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, so cash flow is king. However, the king can live and die,
Mm.
but it's the kingdom that can last for generations.
Oh, that's so good.
So
Yeah.
it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much of a kingdom you build. And that is net worth. That is you saving. That is you creating a nest egg that even if something happens to you and you can't work, or something happens to you and you're no longer here,
Hmm.
you have a kingdom that can last forever.
Oh, man. This was so good. I learned so much. God, this is amazing.
This is fun.
Oh my God. Well, I'm gonna cap it here because I think we're at like an hour 30.
Yes, we've been here for a while. I love it though.
Oh, but it's such I love details. I feel like details are it's the juicy parts of any topic, right? And the embellishments. I love it. The stories, the anecdotes, the statistics, the sheets. Like I loved everything about it. So thank you so so much. Do you have any Oh, where can people hold on, hold on. Where can people find you if they're interested in this product? What give us the deets. How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, if they want to, even not even if it's just product, they just want to learn about money because that's what we lead with. We don't lead with products, we lead with just education. I know I've kind of like ventured into some product stuff here today, but it's all about just making sure that people are educated first.
Oh,
But
love
if
that.
anyone's interested in learning about these things, they can reach me on social media. So they can find me on Instagram, even though I'm not always as active on Instagram. But they can find me at Connor_Watts. In fact, if they can see my Zoom ideas on there.
Okay.
Or they search my name up on LinkedIn.
Okay.
They can find me on LinkedIn too.
Cool. All right. Oh, Connor, this was so good. Thank you so, so much. This was awesome.
My pleasure. This was a lot of fun. We should do this again sometime.
Definitely part two coming soon.
Part two. Let's go.